friendship that'll never ever end.
Run!
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Reaction Beanie 0735. In that neighborhood, my brothers and sisters. Another Wednesday, another time to go back to who? Mike from that chapter. It is always a delight when we get to go back to Mike. And the title of the video is Police Accidentally Discover Cheating Husband's Secret in National Park. Now, long story short, story long, to me, it seems that this husband's secret is his wife. And she is deceased because he killed her. You know what I'm saying, man? That's just my first freaking guess, y'all. But I don't know. But we're about to see. But before we see Bean Team, y'all know what y'all got to do. Get whatever you may need. Get what you need, please. We're back on another That Chapter Wednesday. Y'all got what y'all need. Y'all ready to go? Then let's go.
I had to defend myself. It was her or me.
Can I just have you just stand up just so I can get the back and everything? Yeah, back. If you can just, lift your shirt. Yeah, I want to see what's up here. All right. Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to take that back shot again. Sorry about that. It was. Give me just a second here. That looks good. All right, go ahead and put your shirt back on. Stand up, turn around, put your hands behind your back, you're under arrest.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this old video, it is time once again to take a look at some of the strangest and most horrifying events, all of which occurred in national parks. Unsolved murders, strange disappearances that seem almost impossible, and some very literal nightmares. You know, let's do this one iceberg style, where each story is more creepy and disturbing than the last. Let's give it a go.
Let's give it a go. And get whatever you may need.
Thousands of people have mysteriously disappeared in national parks under very strange circumstances. You know, on one hand, it's viewed as this unexplainable phenomenon. On the other hand, a lot of people really don't understand how easy it is to get lost in these national parks where if you just take a few steps off the beaten track, you will never find it again. What makes this story odd, though, is that Randy Morganson would have known just how easy it is to get lost. Randy Morganson was a park ranger, had been for 28 years. In 1996, Randy was 51 years of age, a backcountry ranger in the Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks in California, a stretch of the Sierra Nevadas. Randy would have known this park better than almost anyone, by far the most senior ranger. So, when on July 21st, 1996, he left a note at his campsite saying he'd be back in 3 or 4 days, he was going on patrol, all perfectly normal. Randy was like a legend, which is probably even an understatement. Among the park community, he knew nature, he knew everything there was to know about this park. He was by far the most experienced amongst them. And Randy was living his dream job, and he knew it, and he was just incredibly excited always to show his love of nature, show how fascinating parks were with everybody he came into contact with. He had lived among the parks his entire life, 28 years as a ranger. His dad had even worked in Yosemite, where Randy grew up. He learned the value of independence as a kid, growing up in the shadow of El Capitan, but was not antisocial in the slightest. He would happily yap away for hours about the flora and fauna of the parks with anyone who would listen. And he was married with a house and a wife back home. But boy, oh boy, if you were like one of those piece of shit backpacker litterers, you would not want to come into contact with Randy Morganson, because if you threw some trash away, that trash would soon end up in your ass, courtesy of Ranger Morganson. That was the one thing that would like throw him into a conniption, was what he called Swinus Americanus, American pig. It was all of Randy's experience which led to him being a backcountry ranger, backcountry being the operative word here. He wasn't assigned to the popular trails of campgrounds. He worked deep in the country, far from any road or even hint of a trail. Valleys and mountains from the next ranger, ready for rescue or clearing hazards, whatever needed doing. And he left a note on July 21st, 1996. Now, when you look at the note, it says June, but it was July when he wrote it. He probably just, he wrote the wrong month. Ranger on patrol for 3 to 4 days. There is no radio inside the tent. I carry it with me. Please do not disturb my camp. This is all I have for the summer. I don't get resupplied. Thanks.
I'm just already getting the vibes that this man got murdered. You know what I'm saying? But just because of how Mike just keep telling us how experienced that he is. He been doing this for 28 years. And even before he started doing it, he was a child growing up in this business, so to speak, profession, whatever you want to call it, this job, park ranger. He been doing this stuff, being team. So I'm already not even thinking that he got lost. No, I'm thinking somebody freaking killed him. I wonder if we gonna even find his body or not. I don't know. Let's find out.
Thing was, after Randy left that note and went on patrol, he vanished into the wild he knew so well. Randy would be due to, radio in, and he never did, and that was when the worry began. Now, radio in this coverage would be incredibly poor. He was in the high Sierra, and besides the fact that coverage was like shit as all hell, Randy had also been complaining that his radio was busted. He'd even had to gone trek back, to get it replaced at one point, but the replacement radio he got was not much of a drastic improvement. So not only was he in the worst area to try and contact people, it seems like his equipment was malfunctioning. So it wasn't the fact that he didn't radio in, it was when people were just kind of curious about him, that was when the worry began. Another ranger, curious about, not hearing or seeing anything of Randy, decided, I'll just wander over to where I know he's camped. Just checking him, make sure everything is okay. I mean, 1,000,001 things, as you can imagine, can go wrong in a place like this. Injury, animal attack, who knows? So, another ranger went over, wandered over, kicking the tires, kicking the rocks. Arriving at Randy Morganson's camp, they saw that note pinned to the flap of his tent. This was on July 25th, so he was already overdue for the note he had left. That was when he was reported missing. Now this season, this was July, so the season had been going on for a few months. By this stage, a few of the other rangers, and everybody knew Randy, a few of the other rangers would say though, this season Randy seemed a little bit depressed. There was something a bit off about him. This year, he wasn't his usual jovial self. Likely, that was because Randy was in the middle of divorcing his wife. Randy had made a very poor decision of having an affair with another ranger, a Miss Linus, and Randy's wife, Judy, she just wasn't having it. She wasn't having it at all. The night before he went out for that walk, Randy had radioed 2 of his friends, 2 other rangers, just asking some mundane questions he likely would have already known the answer to. It seemed to them that Randy just wanted to talk to someone. The short radio communication ended, though, when Randy said, "I won't be bothering you 2 anymore." They just shrugged it off. But now, it seemed more like that conversation had a very different meaning. What took place would be one of the largest searches in national park history. Randy was an icon. everybody knew or knew of Randy Morgenstern, so there was like no holding back. Everyone was out there. The problem was that there was incredibly huge. So they first went to his logbook. Does he, were there any clues there? Is there anywhere he frequently goes? Is there any place they think maybe he would go to that he knew really well? Again, the issue when you have somebody like Randy Morgenstern is he knows the entire park really well. He knows it better than the people who are trying to find him. If he wanted to disappear to this park, that's not a problem. 100 experienced rescue people were out there for weeks across 80 square miles of rough terrain. His car remained where he'd parked it. Bank account wasn't touched. So he was still in those woods. 2 hikers were questioned. These 2, in fact, had met Randy the day he walked off. They said he was happy out, in good form. Randy had been threatened by 2 separate people recently. Maybe some of those old Swinus Americanus. They were questioned and alibied. Plus, he was so remote, the theory of foul play seemed like a stretch. Eventually, the search dwindled. They found items, none positively linked to Randy. They came across a campfire at one point, but no one was there. Weird and kind of creepy. There was simply no sign. It was 2 weeks after he went out that the search was called off.
I mean, in a way, y'all, I'm starting to think that maybe, just maybe, Randy was kidnapped too. You know what I'm saying? Like, he wasn't actually murdered in this park. Maybe the killer, like I said, kidnapped him, took him somewhere else, then murdered him. I don't know, man, because there is no evidence of him being here. But at the same time, like Mike said, this is a big ass park. You know what I'm saying? So it is plausible that he may be in the forest somewhere lost. I don't know, Bean Team. I think this is gonna be an unsolved mystery too. I'm not liking it.
Then something weird happened. Judy, Randy's wife, well, currently soon to be ex-wife, she received a letter from Randy. The letter, though, was postmarked July 23rd, that's 2 days after he went out into those woods. And as you can imagine, I probably don't need to say it, there's no postal service in the national park. In fact, even if he had left on July 21st, it's unlikely he would have gotten to a postal service by July 23rd. That's how remote he was. It seemed impossible that this letter could be dated from then, but it was dated from then. Same impossibility of that letter was the impossibility of actually finding Randy. It was 5 long years later, though, that something was found. On July 15th, 2001, a trail builder walking through the woods found a boot in the water. Nearby, a shirt and a backpack. Inside the boot was a bone.
Oh.
Searchers were called, and above this area was a cliff. On that cliff, they found a radio. The radio was Randy's. Bizarrely, the radio was functional. It was dead after being out in the elements for this long, but it was dead, and it was in the on position. So it seemed like he had been using it. It seemed like they'd finally found Randy, but how they'd found him would make even less sense. The remains were confirmed to be Randy. Likely all they would ever find of him after 5 years. Parts of him were in the river, animals, water. They're not going to find any more of him. The immediate theory was that, water, cliff, had he jumped. He sounded depressed. He was upset about the divorce. Had he decided to end it? But that seemed strange. A couple of tree things about this, though, was that where he was found, that area had been searched. It had been searched when they were looking for him. And none of this was there. They would have seen this radio, parts of him, they were not there. So if he had come, he must have come here after the searches were done. So was he living in the woods for 2 weeks with a radio, listening to them trying to find him? And then, had he tried to turn this into a game? The letter that his wife was sent, that was postmarked July 23rd. So, okay, technically it would be possible for him to have walked out, sent the letter, then come back after the searches were done and jumped off the cliff. How he would have done all of that without being seen also seemed to be a great stretch.
Yeah.
One theory is that it was an accident, that he accidentally fell, broke his leg and died, and snow and the other elements hid his body for so many years. Again, this area had been searched, so had he been like a fugitive out here for so long before an accident occurred? Others think that Randy wanted it to look like an accident. He was depressed, and if he died on the job, Judy would get $100,000 as a government benefit. So he made it look like an accident. So had his plan been to live off the grid, hide while the searches were done, when the search finally ended, then he would die in a place that was somewhat remote, so that way they wouldn't be able to tell how he died and Judy would get the benefit. It's a very strange story with a lot of unanswered questions and some kind of impossibilities, but at least Randy Morganson died doing what he loved, where he loved to be. But we still don't even know anything sorta about that. And now, folks.
Yeah, that's one right there. That's a tough one, Bean Team. It's like trying to figure out what actually happened to him and why it happened to him. I don't know, man. That's one of those ones also where you can throw a lot of theories out there and I can't really refute none of them. You know what I'm saying, man? Because it's like, dude, at this point, I don't even, I was stuck on that maybe he got murdered by somebody. I don't even know if that's the case at this point, man. I don't know, y'all. One thing I can say is I guess this is a good thing, at least that we did find his body so we can get that type of closure. But finding his body still did not answer a lot of freaking questions. It's one of those ones, Bean Team. It's one of those ones where you just got to say rest in peace to Randy, man. Let's go to the next one. That's one of those ones, man, where we'll never, it's just going to be unsolved forever. I'm just going to say it now. Let's go.
We talk about investigations all of the time, but have you ever wanted to be a detective? Well, now you can be. The case is yourself and your own family history, which is why I
think this is a commercial, y'all. This is a commercial. Yeah. I just wonder what happened to Randy, man. It's effing with my brain right now, Bean Team, but I just don't know. There's nothing I can even really stick to on that one. Let's take it back right here and let's go.
Click the link in the description box or scan the QR code and use coupon code CHAPTER2 to receive a 10% discount when ordering the DNA kit. Thank you so much to MyHeritage for showing me my genetic and ancient origins. I'm about as boring as I suspected. All European and Celtic and Irish. Not a whole lot of genetic diversity there, which kind of explains a lot. Now back to the video.
Back to it. Olympic National Forest.
This old story takes us to the good folks and the great state of Washington. The mighty Olympic National Park just to the southwest of Seattle. A pristine and beautiful Pacific Northwest rainforest that stretches on and on. A beauty that took a darker turn in 2020 when, in February of that year, on a lonely logging road, a horrifying discovery was made. It was fitting for this story, February 14th, 2020. Close to midday, a hiker was headed out in this forest, and who could blame them? It was raining, big surprise, but they were bundled up and trudging through the puddles and muck on this remote trail. All around them was green and brown, the colours of life in the woods. Until this hiker spotted another colour. It was red. It's not a colour they were kind of used to seeing, and taking a few more steps, they saw the red had a shape. It looked like a person, lying face down in the undergrowth. Clothed person just lying there. They called out, "Hey, you okay? Help?" No response, no movement. They began to see more and more red the closer they got. Hopefully they were asleep. They were not. They called 911. Sheriff's deputies soon arrived on U.S. Forest Service Road 28, deep in the Olympic National Park. They found a woman, young and brutally murdered. As this was a national park, the FBI, they soon got involved. And when they learned how she had been killed, the details only got more horrifying. She had been there for less than a week, they estimated, and there were 3 deep cuts along her head. One of them shaving off parts of her scalp. They were so deep. She also had bruises and cuts all over her body, and signs of defensive wounds on her hands also. The murder weapon was still there. Close to her lay a folding knife, and a little further away, a box cutter. Also, a broken bottle of tequila was there too. Likely all 3 of them had been used on her, which is a horrifying way to stab someone to death. It hadn't been quick. Chances are the victim and her killer maybe had come out here for a drink, doing shots of tequila or something, when something went wrong and the killer struck. Though more likely, judging by the knives that were found there, the killer had lured her out here. She was still wearing her clothes, though there was no ID to identify who they had found.
The body was discovered deep in the Buckhorn Wilderness here in the Olympic National Forest. The area is so remote that investigators have had to tie brightly colored ribbons to the trees here so that they can mark the path up these windy Forest Service roads and back to the crime scene. You can tell by this video from Sky King that this is a very, very densely wooded area. Now, police aren't saying very much about this discovery at all, except that it was a woman. They won't say how long she'd been out here, how old she may have been, whether she was clothed, or how she was killed. One thing, however, they will say is that she does not fit any of the descriptions of anybody who's been reported missing out in this area.
Putting her fingerprints into the system, she matched a missing woman from San Pablo, California, named Dianeth Lopez. Dianeth had only been 21 and had been reported missing the day after her body had been found. She was known as extremely friendly and outgoing and had just gotten a job at Amazon. She'd been on vacation at the time of her disappearance and had been telling friends she was going to Washington, go hiking with friends. Dianeth was a spontaneous person. It wasn't a great surprise when she told her friends her plans and her going away for a few days. Nothing new. Well, so who were these friends? Why was she in Washington in this remote area? I mean, she was wearing clothes that seemed weather appropriate, but not like hiking clothes, more like a heavy coat. So the police, they went to the towns surrounding the Olympic National Forest. She must have come through one of them to get here. And searching through the CCTV of gas stations, marts, stores, going to get Cliff Bars, they actually found her. She was spotted on February 11th, wearing the same clothing she had been found in, and she was in the company of a mysterious man. As she was wearing the same clothing, she likely had been killed within 24 hours of this footage. So who was he? Was he the friend? The cameras then saw them leave the store and enter a pickup truck, and in one of those cases where cameras actually come in handy, they were able to catch the license plate on that truck, which in turn led them to an Alejandro Rojas from Renton, a town not far away. The identification of the truck was sort of interesting because Alejandro had actually bought it months earlier, but had only registered it on February 15th, the day after Dianeth had been found. Almost like he didn't want anyone to actually know it was his truck till then. But, well, for him, security cameras do exist, and for them, time's not linear for security cameras. And Alejandro was married with kids, because of course he was married with kids. You can probably guess where this is going, because it's seen this story before. Dianeth's family would say, oh yeah, she had met him on Facebook. In fact, she had been telling friends about him and their secret long-distance affair. It had been going on for 2 years by this point. She knew he was married with kids, and they had been having this affair for some time, but she just couldn't do it anymore. She had been saying, I need to go back to Washington. I need to tell his wife and kids, what's going on here. I need to tell them. I can't not tell them. So
no, you don't, lady. No, you don't, man. I don't know, y'all. I just feel like it's a bad choice. I know some of y'all may disagree with me, but I don't think that's the right choice. If you want to just stop having the affair with him, want to stop sneaking around and sleeping with him and stuff, then just do that. But don't go back. Don't fan the fire. It's a little spark that's going right now. You going to go tell the wife that you've been effing her freaking husband for all this time, for 2 freaking years. That ain't gonna be good. And even if it ain't good from the wife wife point of view, even the husband, like he might go crazy, which it seemed like he did. Now I don't know if this was his real motive or not of killing Diana because she was gonna tell on him or not. But it's just like, man, at that point, man, just try to wipe your hands with it. Say God forgive me and just go on about your business. Just don't never talk to the dude again. But it's like I feel like I get why she would want to tell and try to get that off her conscience, but I just think it's the wrong move to make. Let's go.
Alejandro heard that and thought, well, I don't like that at all. How about you don't tell them, and how about I silence you forever? She hadn't been heard since February 11th, so friends back home in California had begun, they knew about Alejandro, messaging him and calling him, asking, where is she? Is she okay? What's going on? I hear she's got something to tell you. He would say, nah, she went up to visit some friends. She was, I dropped her off with some friends. I think she was going hiking or something. Don't know. After that, never seen her again. Now, Alejandro did not have a criminal history at all, but now he was looking like suspect number 1. And when they went to question him, they rocked up to his house. They saw the same pickup truck that he had been seen, on CCTV. It was spotless. And in fact, around February 11th, February 10th, 11th, they found CCTV of Alejandro picking Diana up from the airport. And he had actually been pulled over by a cop shortly afterwards for expired license. The cop would say, yeah, the truck was filthy dirty then too. And the officer would say, yeah, there had been a woman in the car with him. So it seemed like it had been dirty before he went into the park. Now it's spotless, detailed, even spotless inside and out, as if he was trying to remove something from the car. Cell phone records would also show he had been where her body was found. I mean, it's deep in the park. You can't accidentally find yourself there.
I mean, it's him. Long story short, story long. It's freaking him, Bean Team. Now I'm at the point where I'm just hoping that he be found guilty and get life in prison.
Bottle of water. Thank you. There you go. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. You guys have fun. Catch you in a bit. Thank you.
So, Alex, I'm Chet Howell with FBI. Because our missing persons from out of state, we got roped into helping out. We're coordinating some of the interviews down in California. So.
He was taken in and questioned by police on February 19th, 5 days after Diana had been found. But he's not just regular Alejandro anymore, now he's cool Alex, ready with the shades in late winter Washington. I mean, he could be hiding his eyes because he's just about ready to lie his ass off. Or maybe he just wants the detectives to think he's cool. Let's go with that.
So, what's your relationship with her?
I met her 2 years ago.
2 years ago?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
How? I mean, it was
I met her through a friend, and then we started talking.
Okay.
And we kind of had a thing, but
okay.
Kinda.
Just
okay.
Well, I'm married, I got my wife and everything, but
right.
She doesn't know about me talking to her and
about
stuff.
this.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
We would talk every day on the phone. We would message each other. We just had a lot of things in common.
He said, picked her up from the airport. They hung out. Then she went to visit some friends or something. He dropped her off deep in the woods where she was going hiking. And then, you know what? I don't know what happened to her after that. She's dead. You got to be shitting me.
So she had a plan to meet these people?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So on the ride from the airport here, did she discuss that plan with you? About what she was going to do, what the plan was? Did she have anything with her?
Yeah, she
had belongings?
Backpack.
So these friends, did she mention how she knew these people, where they're from, what the plan was? Did she have hiking gear with her?
I mean, she had some boots.
Oh, she did have boots?
Yeah.
Like hiking boots type thing? Okay, all right.
And how did she seem when she left?
I mean, she seemed pretty good.
So you dropped her off somewhere without seeing these people?
Yeah.
And she never called you back or anything?
She never called me back, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then after that, a couple of days passed, and then this guy named Armando messaged me asking if I knew where she was. And I didn't know him.
Man, you've been really truthful with us.
Yeah, I told her mom, whatever I can do, because she was a really good friend of me. And
right.
You know,
Right.
I barely saw yesterday that they found her body yesterday.
But as the police began to
Man, that's a sorry ass freaking story he just told, Bean Team. Like, that story just sorry, man. Like, you could have kept that, bro. But the thing is, it's the only lie that he can come up with. Because the thing where he most effed up at was the fact that they tracked his cell phone down to being in that exact location where her body was found. You know what I'm saying? So he ain't got too many lies he can come up with now. And the one he came up with was like, come on, bro. Really? You dropped off in the middle of the woods, and before you seen these so-called friends she's supposed to be going hiking with, even though she ain't got nothing but boots. In your own words, you said the only thing you seen equipment-wise was she had some boots on. But you gonna leave without even seeing them? Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man.
like, we have a lot of evidence against you. Actually, you won't believe it. Sorry about this, but you're kind of fucked. Well, then he changed his story and said they'd gotten into an argument. They'd stayed in his car, slept there the night before, from the 10th to the 11th, drinking tequila. Then the next day they'd gotten into an argument because she said she's going to tell my wife. Now, I didn't think that was a good idea. Wow, what a romantic guy having his secret lover sleep in the truck. The police had a very good tactic for getting more out of him. That was to disarm him, give him an excuse for what had been done. Hey, you know, it's okay you brutally murdered her. It's just one of those things. That sort of spiel. I mean, he had this secret, this dark secret he was hiding from everybody he knew. And I guess he felt that if it got out, he would lose. He would lose his kids, his wife, who knows what else.
I don't want you to panic on me, okay? But this is the thing. You've been really, really honest with us, and I want you to keep doing that. But obviously, we found you today pretty quickly, right?
Yeah.
Probably like how the hell they find us.
Yeah.
Because we know certain things, okay? What we have is phone records. I want you to follow me here. I think you were put in a bad scenario, okay? By that right there, what I handed you, you're off the beaten path. And that dot is right where we found the body. She was trying to pressure you to leave your wife. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking you guys are sitting up there, and the argument goes pretty bad because you don't want to leave your wife. She's pregnant, you got kids. She's up there, and she's pressuring you to leave your wife.
Then she pulled out a knife and started attacking me, saying she was going to kill my entire family. Alejandro did the only thing he could think of doing, which was grabbing a tequila bottle and clanging her over the head with it. He knocked her out. She was still breathing, he didn't kill her. But he knocked her out, then he drove her body into the woods and was like, well, adios.
Yeah, I took some beer and that bottle, and then she just started drinking. And, you know, she did tell me a couple times that she was going to kill my wife and my kid.
What? Tell me what she said. What did she say to you?
She said that if I would leave her, she was going to come to my house and kill my wife and my kid.
Did she threaten you too, personally?
Yeah, she threatened me, yeah.
Tell me about that.
She said that after she was going to go with them, she was going to come after me.
Wow. So you never actually responded with any force at all, and she's got a knife?
Well, I just tried, like, pushing her and stuff like that.
You didn't hit her with anything?
No, I didn't hit her.
At all?
Well, just with the bottle.
So you left her up there, like, knocked out?
Yeah.
Okay, and didn't go back or anything?
You thought about, like, just calling someone to, like, have them, like,
knocked out?
check on her?
I was scared. I didn't know what to do.
Was there any thought that maybe she would recover and come after you?
Yeah.
She'll sleep it off. Now, of course, Cool Alex had no explanation for the horrific defensive wounds she had. Doesn't sound like he simply hit her over the head with a bottle in self-defense from how it looked. And he kept it up. Oh, you know, Dinette, she was gonna kill me. She was gonna kill everybody I cared about. She'd been stalking him for a time, he would even say. She was a psychopath. Now, the police, of course, were not buying it, but they wanted to get as much out of him as possible.
I had to defend myself. It was her or me.
What do you think about these injuries?
How did that? Oh, I didn't do those. I don't know how those got there.
Can I see your hands? Like, you mind if I photograph your hands? Yeah. Can I just have you just stand up just so I can get the back and everything? Yeah, back. If you can just, lift. Yeah, lift your shirt. Yeah, I want to see what's up here. Oh, that's cool.
The police knew they had to get the cuffs on him ASAP, so they did a little trick. They pretended they needed to take more pictures, so he'd be put in a vulnerable position, and they could arrest him without a fight. And they did.
Alright, yeah, I'm probably going to have to take that back shot again. Sorry about that. It was pretty terrible.
It's not great lighting in here.
No, it's not? Okay. Sorry about that. Give me just a second here. That looks good. Alright, go ahead and put your shirt back on. Yeah, okay. Stand up, turn around, put your hands behind your back, you're under arrest.
Based on, the wounds and what's happened with the body and stuff like that, we know there's more to it. Is there anything else that you want to, just make right for her family, explain?
No.
No.
He hadn't murdered her, nor intended to. The wounds on her body would dispute that a lot, because she was attacked with 3 different types of knives, the broken bottle, and 2 other knives, and she had defensive wounds kind of everywhere. Who knows what really happened out in those lonely woods? Maybe she just wanted to spend more time with him, asking to spend more time with him, and he wasn't having it. Maybe she was going to confront him about leaving his wife, or she was gonna tell her this had been going on for 2 years at this point, and Alejandro simply snapped. He killed her, brutally and violently, leaving her for dead in the middle of the forest. Or perhaps he'd been planning it the entire time. Alejandro Rojas was charged with second-degree murder. From her injuries, there was no chance it had been self-defense. She had so many injuries, it was clear her life had been the aim. And in the end, the aim of Alejandro would be prison. He was sentenced to 16.5 years in prison for the second-degree murder of Dianeth Lopez, which seems like kind of a slap on the wrist. Not a slap on the wrist, 16 years is a long time, but a bit light for the brutal murder. Obviously she was going to try and tell his wife, and he was like, I don't think you should, so how about I just kill you? And that's exactly what he did. A 16.5 years seems like a very light sentence for murdering such a young woman. The horror he did in the national park.
I don't know, y'all. See, this is one of those ones where at least we can say that it was solved, right? You know what I'm saying? We know who actually did this to Deanna. But at this point, I'm not even sure that the reason that he did this is the reason why he said, as far as she said she was about to tell my wife about our affair. Man, that could be some ish that he was making up too. Like, he could have had a whole different motive for doing it. We'll never know the truth with this one. I'll say that too, because he lying. The only person who, other than him, who know the truth is God and Deanna gone now, so we'll never really know the truth. But all I'm saying is, man, I'm not even sure that is what he was saying as far as just the basis of it, of the whole fact that the reason why he did this was because she said she was gonna tell his wife. Whether that be because she wanted him to get in trouble, or she wanted to try to just force him to leave his wife and be with him. There's a lot of different layers to this being team, but just even with the base of it, I don't even know if that part right there true at this freaking point, y'all. Another freaking crazy one, man. And then his whole thing about the self-defense, bro, this more than self-defense, bro. You didn't butchered this lady, so to speak. You know what I'm saying, man? All type of stab wounds, using all type of different weapons and stuff. And it could have had just been a thing where they was drunk as elf and he just had snapped or had murder on his mind, whatever. It's a lot of different ways you can go with that one too, y'all. And then the 16 years, gotta speak on that real quick. The damn 16.5 years or whatever. Man, come on, man. Just get a man life in prison and be done with it. He need more than that. He actually got a good chance of getting out of prison one day, y'all, after doing that to that lady. Crazy. Let's go.
The Alao Mountains lie deep in deep ass China. If you look at pictures, super cool looking and strangely creepy. Very dense, dark, and deep. The woods are old here. Forgotten things still remain. Mysterious, the word many use for the Ailau Mountains, a remote and barely trodden place. The government gives warnings to people heading here, saying it's dangerous, and no one really knows what's in the mountains. And if you get lost, you're on your own. This would later change to the government not allowing anyone there, and if you do head there, they'll stick a fine soul power up your ass, it'll make your head spin. About 6 months ago, there was a flurry of people heading there after a Chinese vlogger named Shanku went there, looking for like rare earth materials. Basically his video, which was just a vlogging video into the woods, turned into a semi-horror movie to a lot of people watching.
我们现在要从这条河道往山谷更深的深处往里面走。哇，这山里起雾了，一瞬间就起雾了，一点前兆都没有。咱们现在继续向河谷的深处游。我可以100%的确定，这个水里绝对有个什么东西，而且绝对不是鱼。哇，这山里起雾了，一瞬间就起雾了，一点前兆都没有。
Yeah, this ish do look like a freaking horror movie, man.
这儿有个洞，咱们现在继续向河谷的深处游。我可以100%的确定，这个水里绝对有个什么东西，而且绝对不是鱼。不行不行，咱们得赶紧上岸，咱们得赶紧上岸。我有一种不好的预感，我不骗你们，我真的有一种不好的预感。咱们得找个地方赶紧上岸。这路子不对啊，这个声不对啊，这不是鱼啊。
Then he keeps saying something in the water and it's most definitely not a fish. I'm starting to think it's a damn human trying to kill him or something, man. Seriously.
哦，听到没？听到没？赶紧滑，赶紧滑，开不到玩笑。这个动静很轻，但是你能明显感觉到它很大。而且我不知道是不是心理作用，我觉得它在跟着我。
Okay, maybe it's not a human. Maybe it's a freaking crocodile or alligator or something. Or a freaking big ass snake, python, anaconda. Cause I don't know, y'all. This is some movie type ish, like Mike said, just the whole way that this whole thing going. Let's keep going.
这玩意儿真开不了玩笑，我们得走一节山路了，这个水里不能待了。
For example, how remote are the Ailau Mountains in Yunnan province? In the 1950s, they found a remote, like primitive Stone Age people still living in the mountains. There was like 40,000 of these people still living there. The thing is, the real story I have for you is pretty scary, because in 2021, 4 geologists went in to that mountain range and they never came out. It was November 2021. These 4 geologists were headed into the Ailau Mountains to do some surveyor work, forest, surveyor thing. You know what I'm trying to say. I don't need to explain shit to you, big dog. You know what I mean. They began on November 13th, and it went well, sort of well to start. Now, these 4 geologists, they were all ex-military, very experienced in surveying, outdoors, surviving the outdoors. So they rocked up to this very remote place, which was hella far from where they'd come from. And they'd gone around there was like, some villages around the base of the mountain asking, hey, we need to go into those woods. Any guides who might know some trails to take us there? And like straight straight out of a horror movie. They all said no. All of the locals refused to go to take these surveyors into those mountains. They're saying, I'm not going. No thanks. So regardless, these 4 geologists, as if like there could be more of a warning sign, they were like, oh well, shit, you know, a job's a job. We gotta go. So it was on November 13th. They went in and started taking their samples. They had some like transport who were waiting for them at the base of the mountain. They'll be like, we'll be back tomorrow. They headed up early on November 13th. They were due to be back evening time, November 14th, with like about a 5-hour time frame. There was 25-year-old Zhang Jingbang, 27-year-old Yang Ming, 29-year-old Lu Yu, and 32-year-old Zhang Yu. All, as I said, experienced in the outdoors and had strong survival skills. Backpacks with real-time GPS, compass, shovels, thermal clothing, machetes, food, power banks, everything to make a campfire and do their job. Now, as I said, they should have been back November 14th. But they ain't back. Would I be telling this story if they never came down from those mountains? And as the clock was ticking, their transports were like, well, they should have been back now. Let's give them another couple of hours. Night fell. It was on the 15th then that the local government began a search and rescue operation into the Ailao Mountains, which were known as a mysterious, like, mystical place. A lot of legends. People were not terribly excited to go into them, especially in November, because the weather was very poor at this time, but into them they did go. As I said, these mountains are incredibly dense, very easy to get lost in, and the weather was shocking around this time. Heavy rain and fog. But searchers went into those lost woods, and soon they found the geologists' campsite. It was odd. They actually found the campsite, leftover food, rations, a campfire, footprints even. They found paint marks from the surveyors' work, so the surveyors had gotten there, they'd begun doing their job, then disappeared, just vanished. All their stuff at the campsite was like laid out there, as if they'd just been here, and then vanished. Like, I'm talking food still in the pots, their rain jackets covering their tents. It was bizarre.
Yeah, this one even more bizarre in a way than the first one that we all watched. The very first one we watched, because there was just one man who went missing. Randy, he was just one guy, but this is 3 guys, you know what I'm saying? Just disappearing like that. And then especially go back to their campsite and it literally looked like they was in the middle of cooking and stuff and they just all of a sudden disappeared. So it's just harder to believe that you can say as a kidnapper kidnapping 3 men, unless it was a group of kidnappers or something. I don't know, Being Team. Another crazy one. Let's see if we can get some answers.
Search continued for days and days, but this being so dense it made for a long work. However, 1 week after the surveyors first went in, an aerial drone with thermal imaging caught something. It caught what looked to be 3 bodies. And it was no wonder they hadn't been found. The 3 bodies were found 1 kilometer from the campsite, and a kilometer on a mountainside that's as like a jungle is it feels like a lot more than a kilometer. So the campsite was found like they'd just been here, but now they're 1 click away. And where was geologist number 4? He was actually found the following morning at the bottom of a cliff near to where the original tree had been found. And things didn't get any less disturbing when they were found. The cause of death wasn't immediately apparent upon finding the bodies. 2 backpacks were found with them, food in the backpacks. One of the men was actually completely, bollocks naked. His clothes neatly folded beside him. Completely naked, laying on the floor, clothes beside him, smiling. Like he died smiling. How they'd gotten here, why they'd come here with none of the other items, nobody knows. In those 2 backpacks, in all of the backpacks, there was 2 here, 2 back at the campsite. All of the backpacks had that real-time GPS. So if they had gotten into some difficulty, some trouble, they could easily just press a button and it would ping back to satellites and to home base. It would make this, them very easy to find for search and rescue. That's why it took search and rescue so long to find them, because they were supposed to activate that when they reached their campsite. That's like protocol. As soon as we set up base camp, we'll turn it on. For some reason, they hadn't turned it on, and that's why it took a week for them to be found. When the investigation was completed, the official cause of the 4 men's deaths was hypothermia, which seemed odd to quite a few people. It was November, but it wasn't terribly cold. They all had thermal stuff. The weather was bad, but they had camps, they had fires, they had protection, they had raincoats, they had food. They weren't found with any of them. If they had been at the campsite and gotten cold, why would they leave the safety of the campsite where it ain't going to get any warmer? One of the dead men was naked when he was found, so okay. Paradoxical undressing, I guess that makes sense. But what about the other 3? Had one of the men gone missing, they'd gone out to try and find him, and each of them then died one by one, but 3 of the men were found dead right beside each other. They were all experienced woodsmen. They had waterproof, shelter, fire, food.
Yeah, I hardly doubt that they died from hypothermia. That's just a lazy freaking answer from the government or the police or the investigators, whoever, just to be like, open and shut case. You know what I'm saying? Just to shut the public mouth. But to me, nah, that is not what happened to these guys. It's something way more sinister than that.
The authorities never released their full investigation, only the results, hypothermia, which led to a lot of locals thinking something else was up in those mountains. From animal attacks to a lightning strike, a poisonous cloud, or poisoned water supply have all been theorized. The autopsy results were never released, so just how they died is said not proven. See, one creepy incident that occurred before this was that in a village at the bottom of this mountain, over a 10-year period, from 1993 to 2003, 36 people died in that village under mysterious circumstances. 4 in one day. And it's never been proven why. It's been speculated that the water on the mountain, it's poisonous. However, testing the water found nothing. The government then relocated the entire village. Though it was November and wet at the time, the lowest it got on those 2 dates was 9 degrees Celsius, 48 degrees Fahrenheit. They had thermal gear, food, all of that. Hypothermia is unlikely, though others have said it can get as low as 2 degrees Celsius. The mountains are extensive, the temperature is rapidly changing, and that combined with rain and fog, maybe they tried to leave and got lost, but it still doesn't explain why, if in trouble, they didn't transmit the GPS. Simple explanation for that, I suppose, is that they didn't know about it. They were unaware of it, they forgot about it. We don't know. The mountain is creepy, mysterious, and remote. This whole story, it's just like leaves you with so many question marks. I mean, all of the resources I read trying to find this were just translated from Chinese, so I'm not even entirely sure if their media is it more transparent or less transparent than a lot of the media we would get here, but it just feels like an episode of the X-Files with you got this creepy legendary mountain and some strange deaths. It like that, like Scully says in the X-Files, respect nature because it has no respect for you.
Yeah, that's one of the ones that like a real live old folk tale. You know what I'm saying? That you'll hear at the campfire being team. Like, because it is one of those ones where it goes back to that first one where I don't know. And this make it kind of even crazier to me because this involved multiple people this time. At first it was just Randy, but now this involving multiple people. And we don't know what the freak happened to them. Like, there's no explanation at all. And I'm telling you, man, and I know y'all feel it too. That hypothermia ish ain't flying with me. I don't think that what happened to them. Just because it was in November, it went cold like that. You know what I'm saying? They had all the proper gear. And like Mike said, why would they leave the campfire? I don't know, y'all. That's one of them ones that make you think the hills have eyes or something. You know what I'm saying? It may be some paranormal ish that happened to them. Who freaking knows, y'all? Who freaking knows? Let's go. Pinnacle Lake.
Just to the northwest of Seattle, Washington, lies a lake, deep in those woods of the Pacific Northwest. It's on the eastern slope of Mount Pilchuck. There's a 4.5 mile trail around it. It takes 3 hours there and back again. It's a rough, rocky trail, more for workout than for scenery, though scenery ain't in short supply either. Pretty good country. Or at least that's what Mary Cooper and her daughter, Susanna Stodden, thought when they headed out on that trail in July 2006. They would never come back. Mary Cooper was 56 years of age in 2006, originally from Pennsylvania. She married a David Stodden after college, and the pair moved to Washington. David worked home construction, Mary with children who had speech and hearing difficulties, then later at an elementary school. Life pretty good, solid for the Cooper Stodden family, and it would be for their 3 daughters, eldest of which was Susanna Stodden, who was 27 years of age in 2006. Mary and David big into the outdoors, something they passed onto their girls, and Washington ain't no shortage of hikes, national parks, campgrounds, trails, all of that. So pretty much every weekend and chance they got, they were out there. They passed on this love so much that oldest daughter Susanna, she would actually go and work in nature preservation herself, big into, natural remedies, herbs, and would become a teacher, inspiring the next generation to take care of nature like it's taking care of us. And that's what was in their mind on July 11th, 2006, when Mary and Susanna decided to head out on a mom-daughter hike. They had decided this a couple of days previous over dinner and were like, man, Pilchuck it is for us. They had been there before, this wasn't their first rodeo. They knew the trail, they knew it well. So that day, Mary left home around 8 a.m. She drove, pick up her daughter, and it would take about 90 minutes to get from their house in Seattle to Mount Pilchuck. Plenty of time for some mom-daughter bonding as they drove. Trail conditions that day were good. Clear skies. They were due to be home around 4:30 p.m. David Stodden, who was at work that day, why he didn't go, he was home from work at 5:30 p.m. They weren't home. David, though, million different reasons why maybe they'd stopped off to grab some food, lunch, dinner, whatever. No big deal. Now, David was actually training for some little cycling. He was going to do he had a 200-mile cyclist journey from Seattle to Portland coming up, so he would go to training with friends. There's a bunch of them going to do this. Went out, cycling around like mad, pedaling away. And then he came home it was now 8:30 p.m. that day when he got home. Now his curiosity was turning to worry, especially when he tried to call his wife, he tried to call his eldest daughter, and both calls went to voicemail. It was getting dark. David then decided to call the police and report them missing. But David, he didn't want to be foot tapping. He didn't want to be tapping the floor all night. He actually started to gather his stuff up and was like, yeah, I'm going to head out there and look for them myself rather than wait at the phone for a call. It was as he was getting into his car. Headlights in his driveway. It was a police car.
Oh.
A police car driven by 2 detectives. They had found his wife and his daughter. Mary and Susanna hadn't headed to Mount Pilchuck like they had intended. They had headed to Pinnacle Lake, right beside, but a very different trail. They had never been to Pinnacle Lake before. They had never been on this trail before. Why they did the old switcheroo, no one knows. Maybe last minute they were like, completely arbitrary. So David was surprised they'd gone there, and he was shocked when he heard the state they were found in. Mary's car was found at the end of a very long, bumpy, pothole-filled road. This is where the trail begins. From that, their bodies were found 2 miles deep into that trail. They both had been shot multiple times. Shot in the head. They had been found lying on the trail, still with their backpacks on, wallets, cell phones. Neither had been robbed nor assaulted. It appeared the motive was the horrifying double murder for no reason. It's such a horrifying facet of this case that they were killed for no reason. Somebody just killed because they could. They had in fact been found at around 2:30 p.m. earlier that day by other hikers.
Man, I'm sitting right here thinking like whoever did this to them, they may potentially be a serial killer. You know what I'm saying? Because this just was a random act of freaking the most terrible violence you can do to another human being. If they ain't know whoever did this to them ain't know them from a pot of you know what. Like seriously, Bean Team. Oh man, rest in peace to mama and daughter, dude. Jesus Christ. Make you just like, dude, you never know who to trust out here. You never know who out to freaking kill you. Long story short, short story long.
This was a semi-remote trail, not one of the more popular ones in the area, so there weren't a whole lot of people around, but there were people around. It appeared the two women had arrived at around 10 a.m. that day. Then we don't really know what happened, but it was at 2:30 when the first police report came in. There were no witnesses there that day, the day of the murders, though a few people had spoken to them on the trail, in the car park. None of these people reported hearing gunshots or seeing a killer, a strange person, a suspicious person, a terrifying murder that had zero clues to go off of initially. At least that's what they said. The FBI searched the woods for 2 days and found absolutely nothing. Later, they would say they should have stayed there longer, but they didn't. And the police, they honed in on David immediately. It's the husband. Even when it's not the husband, it's always the husband. Police were full sure that the broken David Studden had murdered his wife and his eldest daughter. Even though his alibi was airtight, he had been at work all day with other people who were working. But in the police's mind, he had left work, made the 90-minute trip to a trail he didn't even know they were going on because he thought they were going to the mountain, they were going to the lake. So, found them, killed them, then immediately drove back another 90 minutes, and nobody noticed. They would make David take multiple polygraphs. He would, in an effort to clear his own name. The police said, "Are you sure he didn't do it?" They checked his car. They checked the miles on his car. Ooh, was there any miles here he couldn't? No. He could account for every single thing. It took the police a long time to say he was actually not a person of interest.
Susanna Studden and her mother, Mary, were found dead on a remote Snohomish County trail 12 years ago. Today, their father and husband tried to clear his name.
David Studden showed up at the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office today, 12 years after the deaths of his wife and daughter, to set the record straight.
They asked you, did you kill your wife and daughter? Were you involved in in the murder of your wife and daughter? Did you help plan the murder of your wife and daughter? It's kind of insulting to have someone want you to take a polygraph when it's your own family.
This was the third polygraph Studden has submitted to. The first two tests were ruled inconclusive. Studden is losing hope the killer will ever be caught, a thought that brings him to tears.
I'll just say that still think about him many, many times every day.
Man, I feel for this father, man. You can see the pain 12 years later, y'all. He still feel the same hurt he felt when he first found out that they all had been murdered. But it's not only that part, it's the part about the police. Why they pressing this man so much? This man got a locked shut alibi that he was at work 90 minutes away from where they was found murdered. You know what I'm saying? So you got to say the 90 minutes it take for him to get there, and you got to add 90 more minutes, which is 180 minutes, because he got to get back to work, and then he already got that alibi. He willing to take all these polygraph tests, ain't got no problem with doing it, but the police still trying to press him for some reason. See, this one of those stories that make me come up with my crazy theories that maybe not him, maybe the police. Somebody in the police department the one who killed him, and now the police just trying to cover up for it. You know what I'm saying, man? It just make you start to think ish like that. As crazy it may sound, but it has happened before, and we all know history repeats itself.
In the meantime, with the police having nothing to go on, there was no clues or no evidence, at least that's been publicly released. David and his eldest daughters were the ones who went out to Pinnacle Lake again and again and again, trying to find something.
15 years have now passed since the mother and daughter were found shot to death here on Pinnacle Lake Trail, and the man who loved them both more than anything is refusing to let them be forgotten.
Well, this was with my wife and daughter.
David Studden returns to the place where his family was murdered.
Well, I'm David.
I'm Bob. Sorry for your loss.
Anything that could help find the killer, posting flyers, handouts, advertisements. But it was all so sudden, so random, and without clues, even profilers couldn't help the case. Even if somehow it had been David, there would have been something more, something done to the victims, a crime of passion. Other than being dead, there was nothing. No motive, not sexual, not robbery, nothing. Likely they weren't followed, so probably they had come across someone else that none of the other hikers had seen that day. Gunshots weren't heard. Had the killer used some kind of suppressor? Had Mary and Susanna found something they weren't meant to find? But this was all on the main trail, not like in the deep dark woods where maybe suspicious characters might be hiding. Nothing. A serial killer? Israel Keyes was suggested. He lived in Washington at the time, but the FBI have said it's unlikely he did it. We simply don't know. And I think that's what makes this case one of the scariest. There's zero rhyme or reason for what was done to this mother and daughter. Just murder for murder's sake. And the person who could do that, who could commit something so vile, still out there. Still out there to this day. Just like David Sodden is still out there to this day, going back to Pinnacle Lake to try and find his wife and daughter's horrifying killer.
See, this is where they were found, right here. Susanna was laying right there, and Mary was up against the log. And their packs were like right in here. Dealing with the detectives, they said, we're not sure, maybe an animal did this. And I knew they were lying to me right there. And that really, you know, after that for about 6 months, I felt like I was dealing with junior high kids. It helps that other people are somewhat interested. And you know, it's been 10 years. They deserve justice.
They do. They do deserve justice, man. It's just like, oh, y'all, the way the police acting, like even right there, what you heard, what he said the detective was gonna try to tell him that animals did this. Like, y'all just trying to make up any damn thing, man. Why y'all acting like I'm the one who's suspicious? Y'all the one who acting freaking suspicious, man. Seriously, I don't know who did it to that mother and daughter. And then it's like Mike said, that person is still out there, and it just goes back to what I was saying too, y'all. I think that person, whoever did that, is a freaking serial killer just because of the randomness of it, and they just randomly out here killing people when they find an opportune time to get away with it. Let's go, y'all. We at the end. Let's wrap it up.
Thank you so much for watching. It really means the absolute world to me. I love these national park stories because I love hiking in national parks. So it's great to be able to tell more. I haven't done one in a while. And I know some of you lean more towards the horror, some more towards the true crime, some more towards unsolved, some more towards solved. So I think this whole video has a little sprinkle of everything in there. So I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, if you were looking for some more That Chapter, you can check out the That Chapter podcast, which has a brand new episode out every single Monday. Every Monday, brand new shampoo, completely podcast exclusive story. Then on Fridays, there's either listener stories or the audio from a That Chapter video, so you can check it out. If you're more into audio stuff, you can check out the merch down below. Fourth wall, That Chapter. You can Google it. I don't need to tell you. You know how to figure it out. And then also, you can check out the That Chapter Patreon, where there's a Patreon-only Discord, Patreon exclusive videos, early access to all videos ad-free. But you know what, you do you. Just take care of yourselves, that's really the main thing. Once again, thank you to MyHeritage for partnering with me. Click the link in the description box or scan the QR code and use coupon code CHAPTER2 to receive a 10% discount when ordering the kit. Until the next solo video, look out for each other and yourselves. Because I love you. Mike out.
Mike out, Bean Team. Another great That Chapter Wednesday, man. And this one, like he said, he sprinkled a lot of different things in there. He had the horror, the unsolved mystery, the disappearances, like a whole bunch of just craziness. Long story short, story long. Like, seriously, y'all. And for that last one, man, I just really just feel like whoever did it was a serial killer. But it's like crazy how a lot of these cases, you would think that it was murder involved, but there may be one or two, especially like maybe that first one. Maybe Randy did just decide to unalive himself in them woods. You know what I'm saying? Take his own life. You never freaking know, Bean Team. I'll tell you one goddamn thing. The more we listen to these forest stories from Mike that he do like this, man, the more it just make me not want to ever go back to a forest. Seriously, Bean Team. Oh my freaking goodness. But like I said, man, it was always a delight to go back to Mike, and we did it once again, my friends. And best believe we'll be back next Wednesday. And I digress. I'm going to let y'all go. I appreciate y'all coming on back as always. And before you leave, just please hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and do all that if you ain't did that yet. And remember this. Love, peace, and happiness. Stay safe. Don't stop. Keep going. Yeah.